Hey, how's it going? How's it going?
I'm good. Here for you in a few minutes.
Okay, no problem, no rush, no rush.
And it is now time for Dr. Brown coming your way on today. Stay with us. Dr. Brown, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you? How's everything down? How's everything down in Chadburn?
It's good. It's good.
Okay. Good, excellent. So, always good to hear from you.
We got a new one in here with us. We got preacher. Tell him your name. Churchville.
Preacher who?
Be on today. Reverend Churchville gonna be on with you today on the program. So.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay, great. Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. Glad to meet you. Glad to be on with someone else. So,
That's right.
So okay. So how long have you been working there?
About 3-4 years.
3-4 years. Okay.
I kind of retired and came back to help out because filling in for one of the guys is out sick.
Oh man. Okay. All right. Hopefully it gets a little bit better there. So hopefully it gets a little bit better. I tell you. Okay, well, Reverend Churchville. So I guess I'll do a quick introduction of myself before we start the show. So of course I'm Dr. Brown, Chris Brown, Dr. Brown. So I guess I've been with them about actually a little over 2 years now. I think I started about 2 years ago today, and so we do this Health Facts program, basically a 20 to 30 minute show where we kind of pick a topic and I just give kind of a quick brief overview. And then, of course, we open it up for questions. A lot of times people, I guess they can't call while I'm on. So like I said, we haven't had a chance to get that. Recently expanded, a couple months ago, expanded to streaming. So like we're actually now being streamed live kind of through some of my platforms to kind of get some messaging out there a little further. But long story short, it's really, trying to find, different health topics that are relevant to folks that can kind of help to, either provide education, awareness, and hopefully give them something actionable that when they listen to the program, is something that they can take home, that they can listen to, if not for themselves, for someone else. So that's kind of what we've been doing. Like today's show is literally going to be, how to find a new clinician and what to do when you're looking, or like basically making the most out of your doctor's appointment is basically what it is. So we'll kind of do that, and we'll kind of go from there. And of course, if you're on, feel free to ask any questions. Okay.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay, so we'll go and get started here. All right, so good afternoon, listeners. You're locked into WVOE, the voice of Ebony, where your health is our heartbeat. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Brown, president and founder of Pressure MD Academy, welcoming you to another enriching session of Health Facts, the show where wisdom meets wellness and knowledge is always in season. So today we're going to talk about making the most of your doctor's appointment. And kind of the reason why we kind of chose this is that this is something that is really important across the board. We could talk about, of course, we like to talk about different health topics, every week and different health topics, why certain things are important, like hypertension, diabetes. However, one of the things that I'm finding as I talk to more and more people is that sometimes people either don't know how to find new doctors or new clinicians, or they have issues that are going on inside that visit that from a doctor's perspective, as I'm listening to them, I think a lot of times it's just miscommunication or not understanding the nature of the visit. So this show today is meant to kind of walk you through some steps in terms of how to find what to look for when you're finding a new doctor or a new clinician, how to set up for the appointment and things to do. Like I said, if you have maybe a not so great experience. So that's what today's show is about. So so we're going to start with finding and researching a new clinician. Okay. So somebody said, you listen to this show or you go to a health fair and someone says, hey, you need a primary care doc. Of course, you can always be specialist. This thing also works with specialists as well. And so the question is, okay, well, what does that mean? Okay, what does that mean? Because people say it all the time, but if you haven't seen if you're 50, 60 years old and you haven't seen a doctor since, your school physical, this can be a little daunting, of course, right? Okay, because, how do I start? Where do I get this stuff from? So there are a number of different things that you can look to finding this new clinician. Okay, so number one, the question might be, well, why does it matter, right? Why does it matter? So as you go through looking for your clinician, one of the things to be aware of is what are your needs. Okay, so how old are you? what sex are you? Are you male? Are you female? Your language. If you're, of course, most of our listeners are going to be primarily English speakers, but say you came from somewhere else, that might be an issue. And probably one of the biggest ones is that clinician in network or not in network with your insurance company. Okay, so that's probably a big one. So that's one of the reasons why you want to think about things as you're looking for a new doctor. So, in terms of age, of course, the big one for most people is going to be, are you above or below the age of 18? Of course, most of our listeners are a little bit above 18. And so, because that's going to define which type of docs are going to look for you. So we're going to go through the scenario, we're looking for a primary care doctor. So primary care doctors, there are, pediatricians that treat kids 18 and younger. There are what we call internal medicine doctors for adults. They treat 18 and older. And then, of course, we have family medicine doctors, and family medicine doctors takes them across the gamut. So they take kids, they take adults, the whole 9 yards. And so, sometimes when folks are, over 40 or 50 years old, especially if they have other health issues, a lot of times they may lean a little bit more towards internal medicine, but the family medicine docs are also completely capable of taking care of that. Okay. In terms of the sex of a person, sometimes women want to have a woman doctor. Sometimes men want a man doctor. Some people don't care. But if that is important to you, you want to make sure that you look for someone that's that same sex as you. And then, of course, language. If you do happen to, if English is a second language for you, then of course you want to see if you can find somebody that may be able to speak your native language there. So you want to make sure that. And then, like I said, the in-network status is huge because that determines how much your insurance will cover. Whether or not you'll just have a copay or whether or not you may be responsible for, pretty much the cost of that actual clinic visit. So that's one of the things we want to think about with the in-network status. So now, in terms of where to get, how to find out where to find a primary care doctor. Word of mouth is, for any business, word of mouth is probably where the majority of people get information that they trust. So if you know other people, they got a primary care doc, and find out how their experience is. That's firsthand knowledge. So if that person's going there, they having a good experience, that's firsthand knowledge. They also can say, hey, I go to this guy or a girl. Yeah, it's an okay experience. You might want to look for somebody else. So sometimes people stay with a person because it's convenient, but they might not have high recommendations for it. So always ask, friends, family, trusted community members for recommendations. That's kind of one of the first place starts. The other thing, of course, we got the World Wide Web. So you got a lot of knowledge at your fingertips. So, you can, of course, Google is probably one of the more popular search engines. Of course, there's a lot of other search engines out there as well, but like Google's probably a popular one. Hey, say primary care doctors near me. And like I said, a lot of times it'll link you to places, to different resources. There are things like ZocDoc, Health Grades, that are that kind of just basically have lists of doctors that are available for you. So that's something that can be done, that you can look through as well. And then, the other thing that's a really good source, and this is especially for making sure that they're in network, when if you have insurance, get your insurance card, that insurance company likely has a website. And on the website, they have a list of the doctors that are already in network. Okay. So if you say, hey, I got this insurance card, I don't want a person that's outside of my insurance network because I don't want to pay anything more than my copay, then you want to make sure that you go to the website affiliated with your insurance company and take a look at the doctors they have listed as primary care doctors. A lot of times this can give you a lot of information in terms of like, who the doctor is, where they're located. And then the biggest thing that you can find is whether or not they are accepting new patients. Because otherwise you're just calling through, especially nowadays with the shortage of doctors, stuff of nature. Sometimes a lot of these primary care doctors are full, and so they're not accepting new patients. So you don't want to get recommendations from someone, go through the process of calling, and then find out, oh my gosh, look at this. This person isn't even taking patients. Okay, so I usually recommend in terms of order, ask people friends and family. It's probably one of the first ones, but then also make sure you familiarize yourself with your insurance's list of active providers. So you won't go through that as well. And then, of course, you can do things like, once you find names, you can also go to like the state medical board, and that way you can actually verify a license. So like you can look up Dr. Chris Brown, and like I said, hey, make sure that my license is good. So you can actually do that on the state medical board website. Okay. In terms of like what you're going to ask, like I said, especially if you're getting firsthand referrals, you want to ask things like, what do you like most about the clinician? Do you feel like they listen to you, explain things clearly? How easy it is to schedule appointments? So is it easy? You just call and they take care of that, or anything else goes on? The big one for a lot of people, especially if you are a busy person, like I said, you don't have like a lot of time. Do they run on time? Everybody has different. Every clinician runs things differently. So, you want to find out if they run on time. And sometimes this is, you have to make a decision here because, people are like, oh, I want somebody to sit down and listen to me. Well, if that clinician has a clinic full of patients, if they do listen, this may mean that they may not run on time. Because if they're listening to you for 30, 40 minutes, guess what? Everybody else that was scheduled, all that stuff is going to get pushed back. So you may have to wait. So some of the docs I've known in the past that were wonderful listeners, their patients loved them the whole 9 yards, but they would typically run late. Why? Because they're talking to the previous patient about, the new chickens that they got. So they do that. That's not to mean that, you can't run efficiently and listen to people, but sometimes you have to prioritize what's important to you. Is it being listened to about things outside of your particular issue you're going to the doctor with? Or is it, hey, I want to just get in there. I don't want to wait more than 5 minutes and take care of my stuff and let me go. So those are some things you might want to clarify even before you go. Sometimes, of course, you won't be able to experience it until you go there. And then, of course, you also have to remember, like I said, if it's just a one-off, because patient was pretty sick, those things can happen as well. But if it's a regular pattern, you just have to figure out what you do and don't like. Okay. And then, of course, accepting insurance. That's kind of like we said before. Okay. In terms of other things that you might look for in your new clinician, strong reviews are always good. But of course, one thing about reviews, especially if it's a clinician that doesn't manage those reviews well. Remember, when it comes to reviews, people complain. Most of the people that follow them are going to be the ones that complain. So, you have to actively request people that have good experiences to provide those good, strong reviews. Otherwise, it's just the people that had a bad day that might be on there. But of course, if you see a bunch of bad reviews, you might want to watch that stuff. That patterns become reality, of course. Then things like, you can look for things like board certifications. They should be, have had at least one board certification. Some docs don't maintain them because they feel like, once we pass in the first time and you keep practicing and they're maybe getting their education somewhere else, they may or may not participate in those. But the board certifications, you want to make sure they at least got their initial board certification. Okay. Then experience with your health needs. Of course, this is primary care, so you want to find, good, solid primary care docs. Okay. All right. So once you kind of done some research, found a couple of physicians that you like, then of course you want to call the office to schedule. And when you call, you want to verify things. Do they accept your insurance? Remember, when you're going on these websites, there may be a delay in how how often they're updating them. So maybe, maybe last month, Dr. Jones was accepting patients, but, since that time, he got a flood of patients. So now he's not taking them. So you want to make sure that they, number one, accept your insurance. And then number two, make sure they're accepting new patients. Okay. Usually if they're not taking new patients, they'll tell you kind of quickly. So, but you always want to ask and make sure. Just make sure. Okay, go. Then you want to find out the schedule. Okay, what's the earliest available appointment in terms of timeline? So, is it a week? Is it a month? Is it 3 months? Is it 5 months before you can get in? So you want to find out what the earliest is, and then you want to find out, if you have a flexible schedule, they may have a appointment that's 4 or 5 months out, but you might say, hey, can you put me on a list that if something opens up earlier, they will call you and see if you can get in earlier. Okay. All right. So that's those are some good questions. Then ask them, of course, what paperwork or documents that you need to bring to the appointment, and ask them if they have patient portals for test results and messaging. So those are things that you can ask, when you call, and this may influence whether or not that's a clinician that you may want to talk to. Okay. All right. So you've selected somebody, you called their office, you got an appointment, and so what do we want to do now? Now you want to prepare for this. You want to prepare for the visit. Okay. So between the scheduling and the actual visit, you want to prepare. And so what kind of things you might look for. So you want to write down, and I mean this, write down, get your little health book or health notebook or a piece of paper. You can also do it in your phone in the notes section. You want to write down your top 2 or 3 concerns. Honestly, if you're established somebody, I'd probably have a list of your health concerns. But you want to put the ones that are most important to you to the top. Like I said, so you got your top things that you're concerned about, so you can bring that to the attention of the clinician whenever you're seeing them. So you want to prioritize things. If you have something in particular that you're concerned about, you want to keep a symptom diary. Okay, so say you're getting, you get some nausea or something of nature. All right, is it nausea all the time? Is it nausea with certain foods? You want to kind of keep a little diary so that whenever you show up to that visit, you will, hey, look, I've had this particular symptom 3 times. It's associated with, spicy pizza, and all that stuff can be shared with that clinician at the time. And then, you also want to make sure you do some family history. Hey, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, cousins. Hey, do you know anybody else in the family that's had issues with stomach issues or whatever? So you want to find those and then find out if there's any other health issue. Make sure your family history is accurate. Then, of course, if you need a ride, make sure you arrange it ahead of time. So, like I said, you may. Some people do have transportation issues. Make sure that you work on that ahead of time. And also, if it's a new doc, make sure you map out your route. So if you're especially in areas that have traffic and stuff of nature, and you have your appointment is at 8:45 or something in nature, that's rush hour. So you may have to take that into consideration. So make sure you do that. Okay. All right. So that's so preparing for your schedule for your visit. You want to do those sort of things. Now the day before. Okay. So the day before, the night before, what do you want to bring to your to this visit? Okay. So I say, first time, bring your medication bottles. Bring whatever medication you're taking. So bring those bottles. And if you have a written list, you can bring the written list as well, but definitely bring the bottles. And when I say bring the bottles, any prescribed medication, any over-the-counter medication, all these herbal remedies, stuff of the nature, bring that stuff with you. Okay. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So bring it there, because by the time you get there, you may be forgetting some of the stuff that's going on. Okay. Any previous medical records, test results, imaging results, you can bring those. I always tell people to kind of keep a track of their health issues over time. You can bring those in. If the clinician needs them, they can always copy them, add them to your particular record. Bring your insurance card and your ID. So the night before, get that insurance card out, take a look at it, and of course, make sure you have your ID. Those are 2 important pieces of information to have with you whenever you go to the clinic visit. Okay. Make sure you take a notebook, or you can use your phone, of course, to write down notes while you're in there. So you can do that as well. And then, of course, that list that you had before, the symptom diary, the list of concerns, bring that also. Make sure you put all that stuff together. And then if you think you need some support, like I said, bring a friend or a family member that you may need for support. You maybe have some anxiety about going to the doctor or something of that nature. So if that's the case, let somebody go with you. Now, the question will be whether or not you want them in the room at the same time as you're being examined. If they're coming with you for support, they may stand in the front. If you need them in the back, you can bring them back, and you can actually say, "Hey, can you step out while I get examined?" And so that is an option for people that you bring with you. Okay. All right. So next, we're at the appointment. So we found somebody, we made an appointment, we got our list down the day before, we got the medication bottles, we got our insurance card, we're ready to roll. Let's go. All right. So now we're at the appointment. Number one, you want to show up. Most people are going to tell you to show up about 15 minutes before your appointment time. Why is that? Because there's going to be that first time, there's going to be some paperwork. If anyone's ever gone to a clinician or a physician, there's just tons of stuff. We're going to make you got to fill this stuff out. You got to sign this. There are all sort of forms that are there. So I usually tell people anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes early, we'll help you in terms of the appointment. So you bring your ID, you bring your insurance card. They're going to confirm contact information. They're going to confirm emergency information. Make sure all this stuff is set up and established. So that's at the check-in. So that's when you check in. They may have you fill out some of the stuff while you're there, give you a little clipboard, fill things out. They may have it do it electronically. Sometimes they send it the night before as a link, and you can fill that stuff out there. That way, that helps you when you get there. So that's the check-in part. So you checked in first, then you go back down, sit down. Nurse comes out, calls your name, and so the nurse is going to take you back, get some vitals and stuff of the nature, and then they start confirming anything that you provided beforehand, or they start taking down new things. So they're going to go over your medication list. They're going to go over, like if you got outside records, they may, get those in order for their clinician as well. They're going to write down questions that you may have, so that those couple of issues that you have, you can let the nurse know. The nurse write that stuff down, and any, like I said, any issues that might be going on there. So that's going to go on there. Okay. So now, you've checked in, you've gotten with the nurse, you're back there. If it's first time, especially for primary care, you may actually get the official gown. So they may ask you to, take off attire, something. Usually keep underwear and stuff on, and then, like I said, get you into a gown. Now, some people will do that ahead of time. Some people will come in and talk to you first, then have you gown up. So that's different from different clinicians, right? So while you're waiting for the clinician, what you want to do is you want to review your notes. You want to organize your questions. Stay calm, especially for those of you that get nervous in doctor's office. Take some deep breaths. Hopefully, they got some good music in there, something to keep you calm, right? But you want to review your nerves, organize your questions, stay calm while you're waiting for the clinician to come in. Okay. So when the clinician enters, hey, how's it going? I'm Dr. So-and-so, da-da-da. How's everything going? I say, hey, then you do your formalities. And then you say, yeah, I got a couple things I want to cover, two things in particular. And then, you might share that, hey, yeah, I get this stomach pain when I eat spicy food, and I got this rash on my left knuckle, whatever, whatever that might be. So you can go ahead and let that stuff be gone. And then, like I said, there'll be some questions, answers. They will, they'll kind of go over, what you have. They will also go over just kind of, especially the first time, kind of a general, general questions about things. So there'll be your history of whatever you're talking about, your general history and your history overall. They'll go over your meds, your allergies. They'll see if you're smoking, if you're drinking. They'll talk about your family history as well. And then, of course, they'll do a physical exam and stuff of that nature. So that'd be part of that clinician visit there. And then, like I said, at that time, what they'll do is, so that'll be part of the workup, basically. And then what may happen is, like I said, they may step out and do some other, and maybe get some other testing, or they may sit there and they say, okay, so looks like you have heartburn, and you got you're allergic to, I don't know, the peanut butter you put in your finger, whatever it is. So, they may come up with that, and then they may say, hey, you're 40 years old, we're going to need to check, we're going to need to check certain things. Prevention will probably be big. Making sure that certain things are covered, such as vaccinations, any screening tests. So, like I said, if you're a woman, maybe a mammogram. If you're a man, maybe a evaluation for your PSA. So, all those things are going to be done. They may have some medications. So, like say heartburn, they may give you a medication for the heartburn. So those things may all go on. So those are some things that are there. So, what are green flags during this appointment? If they listen without rushing, if they're able to explain things in plain language, and if they're able to ask you questions. So especially once that assessment comes on and they're starting to give diagnoses and what they think is going on, that's the part where explanation becomes important, where questions become important. And so you want to make sure, and so it's really green flag if all that stuff is going on. And if you're organized, that helps that visit to go a lot better. And it also kind of helps to for them to explain things, give you a really good plan. Okay. So as this is going on, of course, we're getting to the end of this visit. So you want to make sure you understand the plan. So so they should have give you some diagnoses. So how you have high blood pressure. Okay, your question might be, okay, well, what is that? Okay, high blood pressure is XYZ. And okay, so what are we going to do about that? So they'll say, hey, maybe your blood pressure is up a little bit, but not at a level where we would diagnose you with quote unquote hypertension. We'll have you follow up in 3 weeks. We want you to, we want you to get your blood pressure machine. We want you to eat low salt, stuff of that nature, maybe it. Or it may be that, hey, you got really, really high blood pressure. We need to treat this now. I'm going to write you a prescription, take that medication, come back next week for follow-up. So make sure you understand the plan, whatever the plan is. So whether it's hypertension, diabetes, obesity, you're just overweight, you got anxiety, those sort of things, make sure, like I said, they'll talk to you about it. They'll give you a plan. Make sure you understand the plan. And if you need to, you might need to repeat it back. Say, do I understand you correctly? So you want me to, not eat fries with my burgers, whatever it is. Okay. So whatever the plan is, you want to understand it. You may have to ask questions, but like I said, you just want to make sure you understand that. Okay. You can ask for written instructions. So sometimes, like I said, there will be, the verbal stuff is there, but like I said, if you need written instructions, you may want to make sure that you ask for written instructions, and they can write down, hey, I want you to, consume low salt diets. I want you to pursue a whole food, plant-based diet. I want you to make sure you're getting 8 hours of sleep a night. And so those things can be written out especially if you need them. Now, of course, because you watch Health Facts, you may have your notes already in there, but you want to repeat whatever you wrote down to make sure that you and the clinician, you and the doctor are on the same page. So you will make sure you get that done. Okay. Then, of course, if they're getting labs or they're getting stuff like chest X-rays or sort of imaging, you want to make sure that you know how that's going to be delivered. Are they going to wait until you come back to give them to you? Are they going to give you a call with the results? Is it going to be sent to you, through the portal if they have one? So find out how those results are going to get back to you. Okay. And then before you leave, you want to schedule your follow-up visit. So make sure you schedule a follow-up visit. And like I said, whether it's 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months, make sure you get that follow-up visit scheduled, or they will put you, or if it's say 6 months and they don't have the calendar together at that time, they're going to want to, they should be giving, they'll say, hey, we'll give you a call once we have the calendar together. Now, a special caveat for this, when they say this, you make sure you put yourself a reminder so that in 3 months, if you ain't heard back from somebody, you're calling back to reconfirm that 6 month schedule. Yes, it's the office should do it, but like I said, remember, this is your health. This is your health. So you want to make sure that people are following like they're supposed to, because people are like, well, if I don't, I'll sue them. Well, yeah, but you've already gotten the injury. You don't want to have to sue because that means something happened to you. All right. So that's one thing I tell people: be proactive, be involved. This is your body. This is your body that's going on here. Okay. So make sure you get that stuff done. Make sure you get this schedule a follow-up visit. Okay. Now, after the appointment, get home, you want to make sure you review your notes, make sure you still understand things. If you have a question, because sometimes, people get in there and they're talking, or maybe, sometimes you get along, or, something else is going on, and you forget the answer, you forget what somebody told you. Or you're talking to somebody else and they say, hey, well, what about, X, what about drinking water every day? I didn't ask my doc. I didn't ask my doc about that. So then you can send a secure message, or you can call the office. Hey, I just had an appointment with Doc, and I forgot to ask, should I be drinking water every day or every other day? And you can send that as a message, and they should communicate back with you about that. Okay. Then, of course, if you don't have a health folder already, get your health folder. Get your a folder, put your information in there. If you got digital stuff, you can do a digital file. If you want to extra security, you can actually secure those files. You can actually Google how to secure a file, and that's where all your health records go. So that anything that happens to you in the future will kind of carry with you. Okay, all right. So that's pretty much it. So this is how to make the most out of your appointment. This is how to not only get a clinical visit, a doctor's visit, but also how to make the most out of that visit, how to get the most out of that visit. You being prepared, you doing the work helps you. I mean, people, the days of that passive, being a passive patient, that's really kind of gone by the wayside. I mean, you really have to be an active member of your health, because if you don't, like I said, you know, things can get, they can get missed, or it can just take a while to find out what it is, if you're not telling everything that needs to be told, and if you're not making the most of the visit. I like to tell people, because a lot of people complain about not having enough time with a doc, but I like to tell people, like I said, statistically speaking, and this has been going on for quite a while, with the way things are structured, especially with the reimbursement. I know everybody loves the insurance card, but with the reimbursement that they have, most primary care doctors have about 7 minutes to spend with you. And most people don't know this. Like, in order to keep those doors open, in order to take care of the staff, to pay the rent, the whole 9 yards, their estimate was that the doc has to see a patient about every 7 to 8 minutes in order to keep those doors open, in order to keep them keep having a practice. So because of that, you want to make the most out of that. And that's one of the reasons, like I said, if you ever go to your primary doc and they tell you only have like two, they can only address two problems. You got four problems, they can only address two, and they got to bring you back. That's the reason for that. Is because, like I said, literally from a mathematical, financial perspective, they have to do that. They have to get you in, take care of this, bring you back, take care of that next set of problems. Because it's not like, if like I said, because if they allocate the 7 minutes and you spend 20 minutes with a person, they don't pay anymore. I think most people think that, oh, if it's a complicated visit, you'll get paid more. Like, they set up certain structures, and like I said, you have to stick to that structure. They don't necessarily compensate for more. So I mean, you hate to hear that piece, but at the same time, it's also a reality, and understanding the nature of why healthcare is structured or is run the way it is. And what I'm giving you is information you need to kind of combat that, and to take things into your own hands. Okay. And then one other thing I want to let you know is, attendance, no shows, because I have noticed people like to not show. There are doctor's offices that will kick you out of the practice if you don't show and don't call. So make sure you're taking care of that. And as of that, I mean, that's pretty much the show for the day. Reverend, you got any questions, comments, concerns?
No, that was basically it. That was just great information. Yeah, I'm gonna take you off the air for a second.
Okay.
Battery is running dead, but you can close it out.
Okay. So that's pretty much it. So yeah. So thank you everybody for tuning in, for listening to our talk for the day. If any questions or anything in nature, feel free to call the station, or you can always come make a comment on our YouTube videos, or reach out, www.pressuremd.com. Can reach out to us that way as well. And as always, I'm a doctor, but not necessarily your doctor. So if any specific questions or concerns, always reach out to your doctor for more information. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to talking to everybody next week.
And thank you, Dr.